Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Welcome to this very special edition of Atlanta Business Radio. It is actually time for our Women in Technology series. Stone Payton, Tricia Dempsey here with you. Today's episode brought to you in part by ARC, American Reprographics Corporation. If you print with it, print on it, or simply want it printed, head on over to arcinatlanta.com. Or better yet, reach out to Mindy Godwin, ask to speak with her personally. Let her know that Stone and Tricia sent you. You can reach her directly at 770-394-2465. And now here's your host, Miss Tricia Dempsey.
This is my favorite part. I love coming down here and talking to these brilliant women on Business Radio X. So, let's first start off with what is Women in Technology and what is bringing us all together. It's an amazing, organization, and the mission for WIT, Women in Technology, is to empower girls and women to excel in STEAM from the classroom to the boardroom. So today we're going to be talking with some brilliant female leaders on the topic of purpose, which is something that I think is appropriate all the way from the classroom to the boardroom. You want to start early, but it's never too late to get started on your path to purpose. And so in a second, we'll do some introductions, but I want to let everyone know that I know you're going to be dying for more of this content after you hear this chat we're going to have today, and wanted to let you know that you can continue it with us by joining us at our WIT forum next Wednesday morning.
Almost sold out, I hear.
Oh my gosh, you better
Almost
hurry.
Sold out.
Get the last couple tickets.
Yeah. I've got to get my ticket right away.
Yeah, mywit.org. So Tricia Dempsey, CEO of Thrive Her, one of our guests today, will be in conversation with Penny Collins, the current CEO and president of WIT. And Tricia was a past president of WIT. So we've got some brilliance that's coming on that stage too. So I look forward to that as well. So to kick off today, I just want to kind of set a little, context. I mean, why are we talking about purpose? Why is this important on Business Radio X? And then I want to introduce our guest, and we'll kind of dig into this topic a bit. And so for me, so I'm a volunteer program director for WIT Forums. You may have figured that out by now. But in my day job, I help companies unleash the power of purpose in their businesses. And the reason we do that is multi-faceted. One, it helps people in the business feel more fulfilled, and feel like they're contributing to a higher purpose. And things, when people are more empowered and contributing their gifts to the world, they're more engaged with their work. And you can kind of put two and two together and think that, that can lead to some great business returns. And so, in fact, I kind of want to just lead off at the top sharing a statistic. Let me pull this up. So I think everyone out here listening is focused on growth of their business, right? So there's a 2020 study out by Cantor Consulting, which they've studied for the last 12 years growth rates of businesses, and the median growth rate over these 12 years was 86%. So if you compare that to the growth rate of highly purpose-driven companies, those are 175% growth rate. So if you want to beat the median growth rate in your business by 89%, you might want to listen today and get some tips and start thinking about purpose. And the other interesting point there was that the companies that were very not focused on purpose, lower than average, had a 70% growth rate. So there's a real factor here to pay attention to. So with that context, let's do these introductions. So we have our first guest, Tricia Dempsey. I want to have you tell us a little bit about your background, but you are the CEO of Thrive Her, and past president of Women in Technology. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing with Thrive Her? It's super exciting.
Yeah. So, I started Thrive Her March of 2019, and we've coached nearly 200 women in the last 9 months on how to find their purpose and how to get their career to the next level. So we provide coaching programs and group and one-on-one coaching and a sense of community, which last night we just had our big party, Thrive Live, and I couldn't shut it down. It was supposed to last 2 hours. It lasted 5. I mean, the excitement for that is really something special. But I think that what we found is that there are a lot of leadership programs, and I know Julie's going to talk about those today. We just really are not in that space of developing, strictly leaders. We're really in the space of helping people kind of unlock their mindset about things so that they can actually step into things they're wildly qualified to do a lot of times, but they feel held back from, or it's not accessible to them. So we really created Thrive Her to make coaching accessible to all professional women in a way from a price point standpoint and from an access standpoint. So whether you're a mom at home or you live in North Dakota, you can get into our programs and kind of be a part of that community, which has really been thriving, no pun intended, but it really has been. It's been so exciting and fun to watch.
I love it. And so I love the fact that you're bringing this perspective of the power of purpose in individual lives.
That's
and
right.
I said a little bit about the power of purpose in business. So that's a nice segue over to Julie, who is coming from the university world and is, I'm going to let you have a long list of credentials. So so you're the assistant vice president, let me get this correct, at Brenau University, and also the head of the communications department. And
Correct.
I could go on because I read that bio and it's pretty impressive. So can you tell us a little bit about what you're working on? And I know specifically there's a program, your MBA program, I would love for you to share a bit about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as far as my bio goes, as we've just heard, you can put anything on paper, right? So let's not confuse that. But, yes, it's so exciting. Brenau University had the opportunity to partner with Women in Technology for, a few scholarships to our new Executive Women's
That's
MBA.
wonderful.
Yeah.
And so that's really where, we've had a collegiate chapter of Women in Technology at Brenau University for many years, but this really took our relationship and our partnership to a new level. It's very exciting, and we appreciate all of the support from WIT. It's such an amazing organization. But at Brenau University, I am, as you mentioned, the assistant vice president for executive programs, and I'm also the department chair for the communication program. The Executive Women's MBA is our newest program. And in fact, our first cohort just started their classes Monday. So we are right in the throes of the new year with the program and with these incredible women. And one thing that was very important to us as we created this program, and it's the first program of its kind. So we didn't have a model to follow. And so what we really kept close to our hearts and in our heads as we planned every facet of this program was exactly what you just mentioned, Tricia, which was access. What are the barriers that are keeping very qualified, very credentialed women from taking this next step in their education, which oftentimes can be the catapult in their career? And what are those things that are keeping them from being able to do it? So our goal was really to take down as many of those access barriers as possible, and to create a really holistic program for the women that are taking advantage of it.
And Julie and I were just having this conversation out in the lobby that, it's so great to be able to see a wide variety, the mix that you get when you can access people online and give, access to them through the online platform. But then I love her cohort idea of bringing these women back together, and then they actually get to meet each other and they gel and they continue that relationship. That's so strong to then go back and be able to still deliver the online platform. Don't you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. One thing that we find that is so important for women is, these very overt discriminations are kind of gone now, right? So there's laws that protect us and there are all these things, but there's still these very covert biases that keep women from excelling. And so oftentimes we don't feel like we have the permission to be the full leader that we think we can be. And so having that tribe of women, that cohort around you that's encouraging you to really tap into your leadership and tap into who you are and unapologetically lead and perform is so important.
But my tagline is literally, it's your turn, it's your time. Because I think so many of these women, right, have supported their husbands, supported their children, supported their teams. I call it the crabs in the basket mentality. You know, that one crab, she's trying to reach up and the others will just reach up and grab her back down. Not intentional. A lot of times we're just kind of nurturers by nature. So we stay in the basket to make sure everybody's okay, but it's our turn and it's our time. I think that's what, I mean, it's such a great message.
Oh, and I love that you're both offering these two different ways, right? So it's, in other words, women have to, we see that there's these barriers, but there's also these solutions out there. And so we can, you know, find that support, in different communities, whether it's, you know, any of the ones we described or others, but that's so important, right? To, gain that confidence and kind of, it's women helping women. There's so much power in that.
Yes.
So Tricia, let me go back to you for a second, because obviously purpose is kind of my, in my heart, and it's something you're very focused on. Can you tell us why it's so powerful? Like, let's get into that a little bit.
Yeah, I think that, so here's the deal. Here's how we came about this class, Pinpoint Your Purpose, is we had it as part of our Next Level program. It was a longer program and it was included in it, this segment on purpose.
Yeah.
And when I looked at the surveys after the classes, women were saying more of that, more of that, more time of that, more time of that. Well, our Next Level program was at a price point that you just couldn't get into it very easily unless, you know, I wanted to create programs that people never had to ask their boss or their partner for permission to take. And so what we realized was we saw this as one of the most powerful segments of our program. We carved it out and we created its own class for it. And I'm going to tell you, so the first time I think we launched it, we had 44 women. Last time we had 128. We expect 250 or more this next time, because this topic, and really I think more than anything, getting women to be able to have the time and space to think about what they really want and ask them those questions, allow them to be blank sheet of paper. I don't have to worry about my kids. I don't have to worry about my family, my team. Really what they really want. And then also try to get them to decouple that from their job and really think about where they are in their heart more than anything else. So I always say the Pinpoint Your Purpose classes, it's not hard work, but it's a lot of heart work. So you really have to dig and figure out what makes you tick and what makes you engage. But I've seen it, and this is what I think the big payoff is there's a filter that you get when you know your purpose of how to make all your decisions in a much more clear way. There is a fuel that you get that energizes you. So I've been going like 90 miles an hour this week. Yeah. I still feel great because I know that I'm plugged into it. Yep. And there's this sense of fulfillment that I'm actually making a difference. And those three things are what is like rocket fuel for women, honestly. And I've coached women all my life. This purpose issue is a real unlocker of potential, total potential. And then, you know, you look at Julie's programs where you can give women access to things they didn't think was possible before. It's a look out in 2020. In this next decade, we're going to make major strides as women.
Well, and I'm so excited because, you know, in my other life, I'm a mother of 3 and, 2 of my children are girls and they've grown up truly believing they could be the president. They could be anything they want to be. But the only pictures they have of those jobs are men doing those jobs. And so right now I feel like part of our purpose as a community of women is to change that picture, right? To give some examples to these girls that have all of the confidence in the world, but they think that they have to lead in a different form. Well, and so they're only unlocking half their potential.
And here's the deal. At Thrive Live, I was saying this last night. Tell your story to another woman, because until women hear other women's stories, until they see those role models, they don't see it in our political climate yet, not the way I hope that they will in future elections, but they don't see it in a lot of the leadership at the top levels yet, but they don't think it's possible because they don't see it. So it's important that we share, you know, how did Julie get to where she is at Brunel University? How did I get to where I am? How did Tricia get to where she is? Sharing those stories is how we realize it's really possible.
Yes. And also, I want to also touch back on this point you were making about that we're kind of creating a new model, right? So there's sort of a way that men tend to do things, or a masculine energy that we all have, maybe. And then there's a way that's maybe more feminine, whatever that is, right? But we're kind of carving it out. And so kind of creating those new ways of doing things and models for that, I think, is part of this like sharing, right? So, it's innovating and creating a new way forward in a sense.
And it's like I said, it's unlocking the second half.
Right.
Right. Because there are times when I have to use more of those traditionally masculine leadership styles. I have to be a bit more assertive, or I have to do those that many people would define as masculine. And that maybe I feel, okay, I shouldn't tap into that because I'm a woman. And I haven't been given the permission to tap into all of it. And there are certain times when I need to approach a situation with more delicacy, right? More graciousness. And there are times when I need to attack something. And it's okay to do both. And knowing and understanding when and how to harness both of those energies is really important. It's part of the big picture.
I love the phrase unlocking the second half.
Yes.
I'm going to steal that. I love that.
Oh my gosh. Well, you definitely need to watch a video of, one of my speakers at Significance is, Nalima Bhatt, and she wrote a book called Shakti Leadership, and everybody listening and my guests here need to read it, but it is about balancing those energies, that we all have. We all have a masculine and a feminine energy in us. But right now the world is more dominated by the masculine energy. And so even the whole world isn't tapping into the full potential that we all have in a world, in an organization, in a person. And so that's another resource we can all look to, in unlocking that other half, and contributing it to the world.
Yeah.
So where do we want to go from here in our conversation? Let's see. How about one of you tell your story? Let's share our stories. As we were saying, let's be an example. Go
ahead. I'd love to hear to hear a story.
Okay. How did you get where you are,
Well,
Julie?
I took 285 now.
I love it. You had a sense of humor, and that's my favorite part.
I think, I went to school for public relations.
Yeah.
I did corporate communication and event planning for many years. But like many women, my husband's career was also taking off. And so we moved several times for that. And all during that time, I looked for opportunities to continue to grow wherever I was. And so I got my master's degree. Honestly, not thinking, okay, how am I going to use this master's degree? But I'm here and I have access to it. And so why would I not get this degree? And then I honestly didn't use it for a few years, but it was there. And, so then years after doing corporate communication, I had my first child and I realized that the grind was not as fulfilling as it once was. And I love when you talk about purpose as helping you to align. For me, purpose helped me to create my priority list. And it helped me to be okay about my priority list. And so I began to look at other options. And because I had my master's degree just sitting back there, I foolishly, because I was very young, thought I was qualified for anything, right? And my confidence had not been squished at that point. And so I called a university that my husband had passed on the road that he thought was really pretty. Brown University.
Yes, it is pretty. I will say, here, it is pretty.
That was all I knew about it. And so I cold called the communication chair and I said,
that.
I'm your girl. You should
it.
hire me. And looking back, I mean, I probably was not as qualified as others, but I took that leap of faith. And Brenau really, I always say Brenau is kind of my Red Bull. It gave me wings. It was a place where they truly poured into me and encouraged me to continue to develop. And so over the next several years, I got my doctorate in business administration and leadership, which opened more doors. I actually defended my dissertation in the carpool line.
Love it.
So, it's balancing and it's priorities and it's just coming up with all of that. So that's kind of how I got to where I am.
How many years have you been there?
13.
Wow.
13 years.
Amazing. I love that point in your I guess, career pathway journey, where you said you picked up the phone and you did it. Like, I think a lot of women, there's all these statistics that say, men will pick up the phone and go for it if they have like 20% of the qualifications, but women feel like they need to have 110%. So you were out ahead of the curve there, and you can see the results you got. So you went for it. And I think that's a lot of what Tricia helps bring out in people, in that confidence.
I hope so. So, I started as a 7th grade school teacher. I got my master's because you could make $1,200 more a year at that time.
Fantastic.
And I was like, yes. And but I did that for 5 years, and then I got into the IT recruiting and staffing business, which was so good to me. But if anybody's, I know a lot of listeners at WIT are in the staffing business, it is a grind. Well, I did that for 23 years. And back in 2002, I was actually diagnosed with breast cancer. And during that time, I was president of another company and partnered with a couple of gentlemen who, to give you some idea, I mean, I was driving probably 98% of the revenue during that time. It was a very inequitable partnership, but I was young and I was like so grateful that they took me on and thank you so much. And I finally just came home one day, bald as a Q-tip, and said to my husband, listen, I just want to start my own business. And he was like, great. When you're finished with your treatment, we'll get going. And I was like, no, like tomorrow, literally. Amazing. I had a moment just like Julie did where it was like a moment of clarity and courage, right? And I went back in and resigned the very next day, and I started my company that day. And I had that company for 13 years and grew it and sold it to a publicly traded company in 2015. Stayed on and served my non-compete, served my non-compete. I love my team in Atlanta. Agile, shout out to Agile. Amazing company, amazing group of people doing absolutely wonderful, which I am very proud that they've kind of gone on after I've gone and done more than I ever thought they would do. And then I got to this transition. By the way, women will go through 11 transitions in their life. And Julie mentioned one of them, which is, hey, my husband is moving from this career to this career. And so 3 more than men, in a lot of ways, we just are natural. We have to find ways to get transition. And every time we go through one of those, we feel wobbly. That's the only way I could describe it, right? You just feel like I was this confident person. I had all this identity, and now you shifted. Now we're in another state. I don't have a support system. I don't have my family. I don't have whatever I need to reestablish. And so I found myself like I had built a lake house, my dream house up on Lake Kiowee in Clemson, South Carolina, or near Clemson. And I literally went through this transition of not being a leader for the first time in almost 30 years. My daughter went away to college, and we had moved to this remote location in Sunset. Shout out to Sunset, South Carolina, population 1,100. Woo, woo. And I was lost. I mean, lost. And I would sit on my chaise lounge in the morning, and I'd have my little quiet time. I call it my happy hour. And I would just sit there and cry in the morning. And I was like, this is not me. This is not who I am. This is not me. What is going on? And I finally, over books and podcasts and YouTube and talking with my coach and blah, 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 I really came to this conclusion. Look, you've been coaching women for 23 years. I estimate I've coached over 4,000 women during that time. Why are you not coaching? That's what you love to do. And my coach said to me one day, you meet with your landscape architect and you coach her on her business model. Like, you need to be coaching. And when I finally decided this, and for any women that's out there and they're in that transition time and they're just feeling wobbly or just feeling frustrated, once you align with what you're supposed to do, the universe has a way of opening all kinds of opportunities to you. And all of a sudden, I was looking at evidence, and I would start to tell people, I'd say, hey, Julie, I'm thinking about doing coaching. And the next day, Julie would send me a picture of something around coaching. I mean, I would go to ski in Park City in my refrigerator. I closed my refrigerator door, and I kept knowing the word thrive was going to be part of my company, because I love Ariana Huffington's book Thrive, and all about kind of sleep and wellness and kind of wisdom and all of those things. And I'd go skiing in Park City, and I'd close the refrigerator door, and a Thrive sticker would be on it. I'd be in the shopping line at Whole Foods, and there's a Thrive magazine right next door. So it just was clear through a lot of different confirmations that this is what I was supposed to be doing. And I am geared for this. I am built for this. And when you feel that way, and people don't believe it, it's kind of like finding true love. My mom used to say, love's easy, babe, I promise. And I was like, not until I found my husband. That was a bunch of baloney. And then I found my husband, and I was like, that's what that feels like. So if you don't feel that way, you got some work to do. And it's so worth the grind. It's so worth it to get there. So that's a little bit about my story. Oh my gosh.
I love your story, and I so relate to it because, and I want to spend a little time on that word clarity, because I think that's what it all really comes down to. And so how do we get it as an individual, as a business, even as a community? Once you have it, it changes everything. It's the filter. Like for me, I was lucky enough to start that journey. You said you read books and podcasts. I did the same exact thing you did. I just did it when I was like 24 because I had a role model for it earlier.
I wish I had that at 24.
Yes.
Yeah, I do too. So that's what I'm saying, like classroom to the boardroom. We all need to be doing this and sharing this with men and women of all ages. But really what I figured out was what you did, which was once you have this inner clarity and you have to listen to your own body, it's almost like a physical thing. Like, you know when something's right or wrong. And that is a guidance. That is like a pointer. If something doesn't feel right, then it's like,
it's a compass.
Shift out of it.
It's a compass.
Yes. And then you'll find it. And once you find it, then you'll start seeing the opportunities because you have that filter on, like you said.
I think of it like a chain. Like, first comes clarity, then comes the courage, because you can't deny it at some point in time. You have to pick up the phone and call Brunel and say, I'm your girl.
Yes.
I'm not qualified, but I promise I'm your girl.
Yes.
Then comes confidence. So we always want confidence to come first, but confidence doesn't come first. To me, courage comes first, then you have to do it, then confidence gets built by doing it. So I think women are always waiting for, like, I hope I just, wake up one day and I just have confidence. And it's like, you got to pick up the phone. You got to make the move. You've got to resign from your job. You've got to put a plan together. You've got to work your dream 1 hour a day. You've got to take some courageous moves.
And when you have that clarity, you build that authenticity that people feel. So when you make that call, like in your example, they can feel it. It's different. You outshine the competition. You're passionate.
And you start to understand and believe your worth at that point as well.
Right.
And I think that women tend to say, I'm going to do the best job. I'm going to work harder than everybody else. I'm going to do the best job. And people are just going to see it and reward it. Right.
Oh my gosh.
So we kind of sit back, whereas, men typically will say, I'm going to march right in. I'm going to tell you what I'm worth, and I will expect that reward. And so we have to go, through those links of the chain and get to that valuing ourselves and knowing our worth, so that we're not afraid when we're doing the work to scream it from the mountaintops and make sure everybody knows we're
about
doing
to have
it.
church. We are about to have church.
Preach, girl.
It's funny you said that, because I did a survey when I started Thrive Her, and the top 2 things that women came back with, one is, I don't feel rewarded or recognized for all my hard work. I call it the Sherpa syndrome. I've talked about this a lot. I'm fascinated with Mount Everest climbs and just watching. I would never do it, by the way, but I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah.
And the Sherpas are the heroes of getting people to the top of Mount Everest, but they make 1/10 of what a guide will make. And I've told lots of women in my classes, stop being the Sherpa. If you ever want to be the guide, you've got to stop being the Sherpa.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, this one student that I had that actually, she worked for WIT for a long time, that's now living in St. Petersburg. She had her best performance review of the year after taking my class. And she called me and she said, I am on fire today. I just want you to know, it's just amazing. And her boss said, what has changed? She's worked there for a very long time. What has changed? And she said, I feel like I really understand my purpose here every day.
That's beautiful.
Huge. It's beautiful.
Yeah. That's a perfect example of integrating that right into the business too. So that individual human being found her purpose, and then it contributed to what the business can do. Can you imagine if all your employees were, instead of being disengaged and unproductive, they were living their purpose at work? So there's a way to do that in your job. You don't always have to quit your job to live your purpose.
That's right.
Sometimes you can live your purpose in your job. It's just a matter of understanding what are your unique gifts that you should be contributing.
You're lucky if you get to.
Yeah.
You're really lucky.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, did you have mentors and people that you kind of had that made you have that courage? In the first place?
I'm the youngest of 4 girls. And so I think some of it was just, grit. I mean, I remember being raised and my dad's, favorite saying was rub some dirt on it. Don't sit around and complain. You fell off your bike, rub some dirt on it and keep going. And so I think, I was raised with a little bit of that, but I have been extraordinarily fortunate to have incredible people. And mentor might not be the best word. I've had incredible cheerleaders. I've had just amazing cheerleaders, men and women at every step of my journey, school, career, that have kind of said, you can do it. Don't back down. Yeah. Say yes and then figure it out. Don't say, wait until I know all the steps and everything I need. Say yes, take the chance, and then figure it out. I remember teaching my first class, and I didn't know what I was doing, frankly. And my husband said, well, how are you going to teach this? And I said, I'm going to read one chapter faster than all my students. That's what I'm going to do. So you say yes and you figure it out, right? And you don't close you don't close the doors to opportunities yourself. There's enough people that are going to close doors for you. So I think it's just keeping those doors open and then finding those people who are going to cheer you on. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe they're not teaching you the job or teaching you what you need, but they're giving you that courage. They're helping to reinforce that courage.
I think it's a great reminder for leaders to verbalize and recognize it in the people that they lead, because we don't see it on ourselves until somebody tells us a lot of times.
Yeah.
And there's 100 examples I can think of in my career where somebody said, you know what, why aren't you doing what they're doing? And I said, I don't know that I can do. Yes, of course you can. You know, it was always those kind of cheerleaders then helping you build the confidence and take the courage to make steps. But it's a great responsibility of leaders to recognize that in the people that they lead, that they see something, because when somebody understands somebody sees, then they rise to the occasion to do it. They just don't want, you know, you just stir something up and make it happen. Yeah. So I think that's such an important point. Yeah. But I was going to mention too, you know, one of the things that, the other things that women had told me in their survey was, I don't have a role model or a mentor. And I would say, you know, we've created this resource, thrive-her.com/fierce, these 50 fierce women to follow. Because I felt like that when I moved to the lake. I didn't have anybody to talk to. All these people are retired. They want to play golf all day long. That's not my jam yet. Maybe one day. But, you know, a lot of people don't have the mentors, to push them along. Or if they do have mentors, they say, well, I meet my mentor for lunch, you know, once or twice a year. That's not enough momentum. Yeah. You have to be plugged into like Julie's program or my program or to Women in Technology to experience that on a frequent basis. Consistency of learning a skill. You don't pick up, you know, C++ programming with one read of a chapter in a Microsoft book today. Sure. You have to practice and you have to get in a cadence of being around other people that elevate your game.
And I really enjoyed, Tricia, with your program that in addition to kind of broad-based programming, you have these networks, you have these small groups, because I think you've got to get surrounded with at least a couple of people who aren't afraid to call you out, right? That aren't afraid to hold you to the fire and say, okay, you're not doing your best, or why didn't you make that phone call, or why didn't you try this? So the cheerleaders are good, but you need a couple of people that you trust to be the critical voice, the hard voice there. And I love that your program provides some of that nitty gritty.
We call it the Thrive Tribe, and it is like a powerful group of women who really are very cheerleader with each other. But I was standing with two women last night, and one woman developed an app. I hope she's listening today because I was so proud of her. Developed an app to create recipes because she was a single mom, always came home late at the end of the day, was exhausted and didn't know what to cook. So she created an app for moms who can use whatever's in their kitchen. Is this brilliant?
Sign me up. Right? I'm getting it.
I'm on.
And she kept saying, I'm just really fearful that when I launch my app, I'm going to get bad reviews. When I launch my app, I'm going to do. And the girl that brought her said, can you get, who, and I said to her, who else here has launched an app? Go walk around and ask who's launched an app. You had the courage to even create the app. Right. And she goes, the app is amazing. Now every time the lady said something that was just more demure, her friend just was like, enough of that. You've got it. Yeah. You've got this. It's amazing. And I was watching this interaction taking place, and I was like, this is exactly what Julie's referring to. Don't let me off the hook. Don't let me settle for less. Help me settle for more in my life. It's powerful.
Yeah, it's like we all need these personal coaches. Yeah. And we need a bunch of them, like, you know, and it can be in the form of our tribe. It's somebody we could hire, whatever, but we need to figure it out. We need it.
I was saying to Julie before you got here, I believe if you're a professional woman, you have to have a coach. The problem is coaching is not affordable for most professional women. So that's why at Thrive Her, we're really pushing the vision, the heart that I have is bringing coaching to an affordable level for every woman who says, I want to be able to figure it out. Yeah. Every woman.
So important. Yeah. Because it's the access piece, right? So we have to break down those barriers, and this is a great way to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I had that experience too about finding your tribe of women, and I found a tribe that's purpose related. I found one that's conscious business. So you can find whatever, follow that calling and that, you know, compass. That's your clarity, and you'll find a group. But you should look for it, and it's worth the time because you will really shine from getting that type of support.
I have a tribe. We call ourselves the Party of Five. There's 5 of us women. One of them I've known since when I had my baby, 19 years. We've been getting together every quarter for 19 years. Wow. And now that's been now a Party of 5. But oh my gosh, I mean, I live for those women. And we would support each other to the ends of the earth. It's nice to have that.
And it's important too, I think, to start to understand that you may need more than one, right? Role model or mentor, things. Because there's different things. I'm not going to the same person to ask about my healthcare needs that I'm asking about my parenting style. And I'm not asking somebody about my professional needs that I'm asking about, what flowers to plant which would be none because I kill them all. But, there's different people that we need for different areas of our lives and not trying to make one person meet all of those needs. I think that's really important because I think it would be really easy to get discouraged and say, my coach didn't help me do all of these things. Well, your coach is there to do this job, this function, and you may need a tribe of people that are all kind of helping you with different facets of your life.
And even when I had my own business, even when I had Agile, I had multiple coaches, one of which has a show on Business Radio X, Bill McDermott, fantastic financial coach. I had a personal coach that helped me with work-life balance types of things. I had another coach that helped me with leadership issues. So I didn't have just one coach. I had probably a half a dozen at least. The last 2 or 3 for a long time. I mean, those people until I sold my business, were like on the phone with me every single day before I got everything signed and done. I couldn't have done it without them.
I think I'm so thankful that you're sharing that because, people don't know what goes on behind the curtain. They know that you're this successful person, you sold your business, but we need to, this is beautiful sharing, this is what it took to get there. We can help each other by sharing this
And we
knowledge.
struggle with the same thing everybody struggles with. Like so many times I would call my coach and I'd be like, I have to have a really difficult conversation with an employee today. I just need to practice this with you. That is a really common thing that we would have a conversation about. People think, well, you know how to do that. I've got to fire so today and I need the right words, the compassionate right words to be able to say to somebody. Or, I'm struggling with, my family is off because some illness is taking place or whatever. And I feel off. How do I show up and really be authentic? Because my employees need to know sometimes you just don't have all your ish together. Yeah. And it's okay. So those are very common topics. I think people think we think strategy and P&Ls and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That's all nice. That's not what we talk about most of the time. We talk about life.
Well, I want to also talk about the flip side of that too, because it feels really good to help people. So if you're asking someone to be your mentor, you can remember that they're usually getting just as much out of it as you are, because people want to share and they want to help, and that can be part of their purpose. These are their strengths that they get to share with you. So don't be afraid to make that call either, because it can be win-win.
Yeah. Absolutely. Someone said to me yesterday, empowered women empower women.
Yeah.
That was one of our signs last night on our thing.
I love that, right? That if you're truly an empowered woman, you're not the person trying to keep it all to yourself. You're the woman that's trying to make sure other women are coming alongside of you. And I just think that's so powerful.
Can I make a comment? Because this has been on my heart. This is really one thing I'm learning personally is that we need to learn to ask for help. Okay. So some of us are decent at that. Most of us don't want to admit that we need it, but we need to learn to ask for help. And then this is the big lesson I'm learning right now. Then I need to be in receiving mode of the help. So I think what women struggle with a lot of times is receiving help. We're so used to propping everybody up and fluffing everybody's up and making sure you have every last thing you have. And now I just need to be open in my heart, in my mind, to allow someone to offer it to me. And instead of saying, no, it's okay. I'm okay today. Yeah, I'm okay today. Right. Instead of saying, hey, don't worry about bringing a dish. I've got it all covered. I'll take care of all that. Yeah. Instead of saying, people come to our lake house. It's like a resort for people, and they get there and I'm like, and some people say, hey, here's $100. Thank you so much for the weekend. And I'll be like, oh, no, we got it. And $1,000 later, I'm like, I should have taken that $100. But there's lots of little things where people are willing to help, and it's the gift that they're trying to give you to help. And we need to learn to be able to receive the gift of help as women, because we're so used to propping everyone else up.
That's
I'm learning that personally.
And when we really think about that, we're denying them the ability to serve, right? We're
give their
denying
gift.
them the ability to give their gift. I think it changes the paradigm a bit. So it's not us being weak at that point, which I think has been the mentality for so long. But it's really about allowing somebody else to shine in that moment.
I think it's also about being authentic. And when you're authentic, you will be more successful. So it's like, this is what I can do. These are my priorities. So I can't say yes to everything if I want to be successful. And so that means you've got to delegate some things or ask for some help or build a team or, and all of that. So, it is kind of like continuing to be true and listening to that compass. And, sometimes that means we need some help.
Yeah.
Jesse Itzler talks a lot about having only a defined number of buckets, right? And so you decide what those buckets are based on your purpose and your priorities. And if somebody asks you something and it's not going to put a drop into that bucket, that's your sign to say no. And so you've got to define those and know what those are. But then all of your energy can go to filling those buckets in your life.
I love that she just quoted Jesse Itzler. That tells me a lot about you. I love that. I love him. I love him. I totally agree.
We're in the zone here.
We're in the zone.
We're going to have a
We're
group
in the
hug
zone.
soon.
I had put out this. I was sharing before the show that I didn't do a Christmas tree, and people probably think I'm a humbug or I don't love Jesus. I love all of that. But I hear at Christmas time I didn't decide to do a tree. And I had sent out an email. I sent out an email every Thursday in my community called Thrive for Thursday. And this particular Thursday, I usually write something that I hope is helpful and coachable. And I was just having a really crappy night. And I was writing, and I'm usually have it a week in advance, but I was like 9:42 the night I was getting ready to write it. I finally write it, and I just wrote what was in my heart, which was, I feel stressed. I feel wound up by the holidays. I feel at the urge of every person that has something that they want to get done before December 24th. And I resigned my fact to, I'm not going to get it all done. And I'm going to choose to do things over the holidays that bring me energy and feel easy. And if they don't bring me energy and they don't feel easy, I'm not doing it. When I thought about putting a Christmas tree up, I thought, for what? My husband and my daughter are going to Park City the very next day. I'm going to take the Christmas tree down by myself. That doesn't feel energetic or easy. But I put up my manger and I've honored the holiday and all of those things. But it's just like that kind of Jesse Itzler mentality of, if it doesn't fill me in some way, or being conscious of, I'm with Julie and she fills my cup, I'm with somebody else and they drain my cup, and what am I going to allow myself in the energy field of spending more time with somebody that's going to do that for me? Huge.
It's like being conscious and pausing, and instead of just being on autopilot and going through the motions. This is what we do at Christmas. This is what we do every day. It's really important to invest in yourself and say, wait, is this serving me?
You have a choice.
And listen to your body really is telling you, like, inside what feels right, and really giving and honoring
this
that.
Is exactly what I was saying about feeling it in your body. I was saying I had a cold sore. I was dehydrated. I hadn't slept through the night. Like my body was like, warning, 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 warning. And finally I woke up and I was like, I know something's off and I'm about to make choices to rebalance it. The problem we get into is when we think it's everybody else's problem and fault that we got into the first place.
Good point.
We allow it. We have to fix it ourselves, and it's our responsibility to make it better. So but it starts in your body. I totally agree with that.
And you can live in the blame game for a long time.
Yes.
I have this little image from, like, the Roadrunner, and then this anvil dropping on the head. It's like, you can listen to the whisper, or you can listen to the word, the feeling, or you can wait till the anvil drops on your head. It's going to be more painful. So the better we get at listening sooner and acting sooner, then the less painful the adjustments we need to make will be. So I think that's a really big tool to put in our toolboxes.
Yes.
I feel like I need to print that visual out.
Yeah,
Just
I
put it
know.
on my
Just put a big
desk.
anvil on
with
there.
the anvil, with the Ghostbuster sign on the anvil.
That's it. I feel like it needs to be just prominently placed on my desk as a reminder.
It's so true. It's so true.
Yeah. So a lot of this is really about honoring, what is really going on within us, pausing enough to know what that is, like take some time. Do you guys have like a daily practice that you do, or how does that work?
I start every day exercising for me, and I don't know if it's the biologic piece that, the rush of endorphins or what, but I think I'm a much more pleasant person to be around if I do that in the morning and I carve out that time. It's also time that I can focus on me. My children are still asleep. The emails haven't started coming in. The phone isn't ringing. And so I can kind of shut down during that time. So I definitely do that, to start my day every day.
Love that.
Okay, I'm a big morning routine person too, except mine is so casual because at the lake we don't even take showers until like halfway through the day most days. And so you get up, we just have a really casual, I've never been like that, but we have a really casual morning. But we did the Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. We did a 1-month challenge on this, and my husband, who if he ever knew anybody knew he meditated every day, he'd probably be humiliated. But now he does. All the women in America know.
I just want to point out really quickly that as soon as you said that, everybody single person in the room picked up their pen and started writing it down.
I'm going to do it with my Thrive Tribe in 2020, the Miracle Morning. But here is the practice: is he calls it Savers, Savers. It's silence first. So I always start with meditation. I start with meditation apps like Calm or Abide. So Savers, the A stands for affirmation. So I have a daily affirmation. I am a healthy and wealthy woman. And then I have different things I say about myself in those two categories. The V is visualization. So I think through my day and I think about it with such purpose. Like, hey, I'm meant to be here today with Tricia and Julie. What is my intention in that meeting today? And what do I really want to end? What energy do I want to bring? I'm switching segments all throughout the day, but I'm really conscious about my intention. The E stands for exercise. And even if it's 5 minutes, it's literally like stretch, yoga stretch, do some step ups, do some squats, literally just get your heart going. The SAVER reading, and the last one is to scribe or journal. And this is one thing that I was just talking to my daughter coming down here about journaling, and I was telling her that most journals, most times you come home from work and somebody says to you, well, how was your day? And what I've started to really try to get in touch with for my own self is this question: how am I feeling today? So my journal starts every day with how am I feeling today? And I try to get ahead of my feelings. So if I'm overwhelmed, if I'm, I woke up this morning, I was like, I feel dehydrated. I really, had too much to, not too much to drink, but just not being enough in water over this last day. I feel a little exhausted. I feel, blah, 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 blah. And now how do I shift that before I get into my day? Because my feelings are just the vibration, but it all starts on how I think first. So then I'm back to grounding myself in thoughts. I'm back to saying, what's my intention for today? How do I go about this day? So that is a huge part of my morning. And then I literally go out and we have tea and we sit and talk for a while. And it's just so relaxed because I'm not rushing to get ready. I'm not getting in a car for an hour and driving in Atlanta traffic. It's just such a different pace. And it's been so good for me physically and mentally and spiritually to be in that environment. It's just been incredible. But that's a religious routine in the morning for me.
And since you can compare the before and after, you can really see the difference it makes. If we can fit that into our lives.
I should get you a picture of what I look like in 2016. Google Photos did one of these things over the holidays. Here's you in 2016. Here's you in 2019. Y'all, I didn't even notice that. I don't even recognize that woman.
Wow.
30 pounds lighter, big smile on my face. Literally my skin was glowy, and I looked at myself back there. It just looked sickly. And I was thinking, this is when I was in this rat race and I just couldn't kind of remove myself for a little of that. Can you relate?
Oh, yeah, right? Quite a bit.
And if you ever see somebody who loses their job and you see them 90 days after they lose their job and they've lost like 30 pounds and they look great and they're sleeping through the night. Sleep, huge routine. Sleep, huge routine.
That is my one unbreakable rule. I've never in my life pulled an all-nighter. I didn't in college. I didn't in grad school. I didn't with babies. I mean, to me, sleep is so precious.
Sacred.
It is just the one thing I will not sacrifice.
Yeah.
That's very wise. And there's so much science behind it now. We talk about it.
Right.
It used to be like, oh, let's compete to see who can do the most on sleep. And that's sort of like old fashioned. That's outdated now.
To Julie's point, I think it's the number one lever for how I show up the next day. Number one lever is how I sleep.
Yeah.
And then waking up, starting with hydration, starting with water, really kind of getting my body happy with getting back number one.
So I love that actually we're really talking a lot about integrating many things, right? The physical with our thought process and our careers. So it's like, around this topic of you don't have a separate life that's your job, separate families. I mean, this is your life and you have to make it all work, and your body is part of that, and it's giving you some like guidance all throughout the day, and using that can really change everything.
Well, going back to purpose, purpose is not your J-O-B. You're lucky if you get to have it be perfectly aligned.
Yeah.
It's how we are with our families and our churches and our communities and our jobs and a little bit of everything in our life. So it's not just our job.
Agree. It's almost, to me, it's about how do you contribute your unique special
That's
gifts,
right.
talents, personality, whatever it is, to the world in all these aspects, and break down those silos. Like wherever you are you there? Are you contributing? And then if you are, you feel great, and everybody feels that.
And Tricia, it goes back to what you said earlier. If we can help to unleash the purpose in our colleagues and in our employees, our businesses are unstoppable at that point.
Right.
And so we do have a responsibility as leaders in all of those spheres, leaders in our families, leaders in our communities, in our places of employment, to help others unlock that purpose and to encourage it and support it and nurture it, because what's good for them becomes good for everybody else.
Right.
Everybody is seeking to be contributing to something greater. We all know how good that feels.
Well, and one of the students on my class one day was saying, we were talking about underperforming employees. And one of my students in my class said, I don't think those people don't have potential. I think they're not aligned with their purpose.
Right.
So me doing accounting 8 hours a day would look like a very different Tricia than me doing coaching 8 hours a day. And so wouldn't it be a wonderful conversation if in employment settings we could say, hey, listen, I really want the best for you. I really want you to live your purpose. I can tell this is not it. You're a wonderful human. It's so kind. It's so gracious and generous. I can tell you have gifts and strengths. This is just not where you need to be. Let's work on where you can get to that. And that may be very pie in the sky, but I think it would be such a great dynamic to change the dialogue in the workplace versus, Tricia, you'd have to meet your quota this week, this week or this month. And you're thinking, I hate even the thought of thinking about my quota. I hate it.
Yeah.
Somebody else would love thinking about that. That would be motivating too. So, recognizing that it's not the person, it's the misalignment of that. And it really is not necessarily even that they're capable of getting there at some point in time. It's that their heart will never be in it.
Right. They'll never be able to perform at a level that someone who's passionate and skilled, like innately for that, will be. You can learn a craft, but I mean, are you really passionate about something? And that makes me think too about how important culture is in companies. And that's a big piece of why these purpose-driven companies outperform, because they're going to get the best talent. When you have culture that feels good, that understands that empowering people brings out the best in them, like all these things ladder up to successful businesses. Yeah. And so
I would love to know what you've seen in businesses that's really tactical and practical that people listening could say, this is how you help create that in your organization. Like give us a couple tips. What have you seen? Yeah.
Right. Well, number one, I think it really has to start at the top. So, you can have little projects that are purpose driven, and that is great. But to really succeed, you want this to be like in the DNA of the company, and it shouldn't be siloed in, your CSR department or your, HR department, but it really should be, why is this business here outside of making money? Every business is there to make money. That's like par for the course. But why are we here? And what are we doing? And what are we contributing to the world? And if the leadership can set that filter, that North Star, then it should, be a piece of every single decision that's made. So like companies like Patagonia, they do that.
Closing at Christmas.
Yeah. And every single decision they make is really truly guided by that purpose, not some mission statement on a wall, in which, mission, vision, those things are important, but purpose is different than that. Purpose is like, why are we here doing this? And what are we all contributing to, outside of the making money, which then ironically makes you make more money. So I guess that there's one tip is getting that clarity at the top of the chain so that it can then filtered through every decision in every department. And then then you have this cohesiveness and everybody is part of this movement, and so that work is well worth it to really gain that clarity. So I think, like, for example, Nike's purpose is something like, we support, athletes with blah, 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 something. And then it says everyone's an athlete. So it's not like we will, be the biggest shoe company in the world and blah, blah, blah. It's like, what is the essence of what we're doing here?
Have you read The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek that just came out?
I love him.
Yeah,
love him.
I love him too. So I just read it at Christmas time, and he talks about something called the just cause. And he talks. So I've been thinking about, well, how do I incorporate this into my class? Because the just cause is about your job, right? So it really is. Now I understand my purpose. Now I understand the gifts I bring to the world. Now, how do I align myself with a just cause and an infinite game kind of way? And if everybody's not read that book, the finite game says, we play 4 quarters of a football game. There's a winner, there's a loser. A lot of businesses operate that way. And you made the comment earlier, we don't want to be the biggest shoe company and blah, blah, blah. That's a finite game, right? Because at some point in time you're going to be, and then what? But if you want to try to turn people into athletes and help them see the athlete inside of them, now that's an infinite game kind of purpose statement, right? So, but that is a really good reference for anybody that's kind of thinking about, well, how do I apply that to now what do I do every day with it?
Yeah. And are you applying it, in terms of like how you treat your employees, how you treat your customers, even your supply chain? Like everything should be, it's not like a separate, silo over here. And it's like, it really should be, integrated.
Yes.
And I think with a lot of these, it's also being willing to try it out. I think this is going to help us get to this point.
Yes, it's a journey.
Let's give it our go. Let's try. And some of those things are going to fail. Some of those things are going to fail miserably. Right. And being able to say, you know what, we learned this lesson from it, and we're better than we were before because of that knowledge. And now we're going to try the next thing. That's huge. And just continuing to move forward towards that North Star. I really like that.
Exactly. And really truly looking at it. It's always a journey, because even if you are integrated and like, using that Patagonia example, they don't stop. They're going to continue and evolve over time.
My coach right now I'm in the middle of this coaching session for myself right now called Setting an Impossible Goal for 2020. And one of the concepts that she teaches is failing 100 times a year. So giving yourself the opportunity to fail 25 times a quarter, going for the result you really, really want. And so my goal this year is to literally, like, this is going to sound crazy impossible when I say it, but I want to increase the audience of women that I launch my products to from 1,200 women first of the year to 100,000 women. That sounds impossible. But if I get to 80,000, I'm going to transform my business, transform the lives of a lot of women. So it's, how do I set these things every quarter that allow me to be able to kind of pursue what it takes to get to that goal, knowing I'm either, to Julie's point, I'm going to learn or I'm going to win.
Yes.
Those are the two outcomes.
Are the only two
That's
options.
right. It's a beautiful.
Those are the only two options.
And take the risk.
Yes.
I remember, hearing, Sarah Blakely, the CEO of Banks, talk about a practice they did around their family dinner table. And it was, instead of, tell me something from your day, what something good that happened or whatever, they would say, everybody had to go around and say, what did you fail at today? So they had to be constantly taking risks and saying, I failed at this today, and getting comfortable with failing and failing fast, and having that mentality, like, go for it. Don't be afraid to fail.
And it steals the stigma from failing.
Yeah.
I trained in Krav Maga for a number of years, and I remember the thing I was most scared about was taking a punch. And I thought, I can never take a punch. I won't recover. I won't be able to get back up, until I took my first punch. And it hurt, and it was not pleasant. But then I said, oh my gosh, I didn't die, right? Yeah. I got hit. It stung.
Rub some dirt in it.
I rubbed some dirt on it. And you kept going, right? And so it took the sting away from the fear of that punch. And then all of a sudden I could tap into this completely different level,
Recognizing your power.
Yes.
Right? And resiliency.
Yes.
The first time one of the big failures I had the first year, I went live on Facebook, which I didn't even know what the heck that really meant. So I'm telling all my friends, follow me today. I'm going live. Mm-hmm. So I got all these people following me. Yeah. I go live on my personal page and not my business page. Oh, no. And my friends are all like, where are you? You're on your personal page, Trish. Hang up, get on this other page. And I'm like,
we're all waiting.
I learned so much.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is we all make mistakes. And again, it's sharing them that makes us feel okay with not being perfect. Because that's a big hurdle, is this perfectionism thing. Perfection is not the goal. And if we remember
it's
that,
it's a soul crushing myth. Yeah. It's a soul crushing myth.
Mm-hmm. And as women, I think we need to work on that one sometimes a little more than others.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
Right. Somebody shared a quote with me yesterday. They said, instead of trying to squeeze into the glass slipper, continue working on breaking the glass ceiling.
Yes.
And I think that's it. We all want to look perfect and we all want to say the perfect things. And sometimes trying so hard at perfection takes our eyes away from that bigger goal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And again, circles all the way back to purpose, right? So if you are really clear, then I think some of those other little minutia details of imperfections or whatever fall away, because you are focused and you know what really matters for you, and it's different for everyone. Mm-hmm. So I love that. Oh my gosh, I love this conversation. Can we stay here for like 5 more hours? How we do?
What's the topic?
Well, we're going to be starting a new series every day. We're talking about purpose. It'll be our new
Well,
practice.
Penny, I talked to Penny yesterday, and she said that the WIT individual registrations were at an all-time high. Woo. They're almost sold out, and they've got 180 people. I think the venue will hold 180 people. Yes. So they're going to go above that, because they know they'll have people that don't show up that morning. But
that's right.
People are excited about this topic.
Yeah, it's so empowering, and everybody, like we were saying, it's a journey. So wherever you are, we can meet you where you are. You can get started. Doesn't matter your age or if you've even heard of purpose. Come and learn it, or if you're really familiar, you'll pick up more tips, more stories, more examples, and build some confidence and take a step forward.
Hopefully meet some incredible women to add to your tribe.
Yeah,
totally.
That's right.
Oh my gosh. Last WIT Forum, we were talking about that, we had a new hashtag. I forgot. It was like, she tribe or something like that. Right. The point is, that's what we are at WIT, is women trying to help women, and we're all learning and sharing. And it's not all women, because that's an important point to make.
Absolutely.
All people should be helping all people. Yeah. And, so we have a lot of men that are part of that journey as well.
The smart men all come to WIT.
Yeah.
They really do.
I know.
They really do.
It's true. Because they are unleashing the other half, to circle back to the potential we all have is,
I'm stealing that. I love that.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you both for joining us today on this awesome program about purpose and women in technology. Let's remind everyone that they need to get their tickets on mywit.org to hear, Penny Collins speak with Tricia Dempsey next Wednesday morning. Come out for breakfast and networking and get a little wiser and pump up your energy to start your day on Wednesday at Maggiano's. And I'm just so thrilled that we started this. I feel like you guys are now in my tribe. I hate to break it to you. You got a new tribe member. So let's continue supporting each other and, sharing this out with as many people as we can. So, thank you, Julie, for being here with us and everything you're doing.
What a joy.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
Great job, Tricia.
Okay. Thank you.